Have you ever waited by your phone, heart racing, hoping she'd text first, only to be met with silence? It stings, doesn't it? You start questioning yourself, doubting your worth, wondering if you did something wrong. But what if I told you that her silence isn't about you? It's about the unseen rules of female psychology that most men never understand. Today, I'm going to reveal the simple, powerful mindset shift that changes everything. How to turn her silence into curiosity. How to make her want to reach out without you chasing. And why doing nothing could actually be the most magnetic move you'll ever make. Stay till the end, because once you understand this, your love life will never feel the same again. Drop a comment with your city, let me know where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for life. Changing insights. You see, the very first thing you need to understand is that women communicate differently than men. This isn't just about social habits or upbringing, it's rooted in psychology. When a woman doesn't call or text first, it doesn't necessarily mean she isn't interested. In fact, most men make the mistake of immediately assuming the worst. They interpret silence as rejection, or worse, as a reflection of their own value. But here's the truth. Her silence is often a subtle signal, a test of your confidence, your self-respect, and your understanding of female behavior. Women, whether consciously or unconsciously, want to see how a man responds when she's not constantly initiating. They're observing energy, patience, and self-assurance, all in the space between messages. Many men fail to realize that women are wired to notice more than words. They notice energy, consistency, and emotional stability. A woman's mind is attuned to subtle cues, tone, timing, and even the calmness in your presence. If she doesn't reach out first, it's not because she's indifferent. Often, it's because she's testing whether you have your own life, your own direction, and your own sense of value. She wants to feel that you're someone worth thinking about, someone who won't crumble under her silence. And the irony is, the less desperate you appear, the more magnetic you become. Think about it from a psychological perspective. Women are drawn to security, both emotional and social. Initiating communication first can sometimes feel vulnerable. It's a social experiment they play, almost unconsciously, to gauge a man's stability. Will he chase? Will he panic? Or will he remain calm, confident, and grounded in his own worth? By understanding this, you step into a different paradigm. You stop reacting to silence with fear and start responding with strategy and awareness. You realize that value isn't in the texts you send, but in the way you carry yourself when she isn't reaching out. It's important to understand that this behavior is not manipulative. It's a reflection of how human attraction works. Philosophically speaking, attraction thrives in spaces where energy, mystery, and self-possession meet. When you chase, you collapse that space. When you understand and respect her patterns without losing yourself, you create a magnetic field of interest. This is why so many men are frustrated. They misinterpret silence, they overextend, they give away their value for temporary reassurance. The truth is, your value doesn't come from her response. It comes from the integrity of your presence, your confidence, and your consistent life outside of her messages. Now, this doesn't mean you ignore her or play games endlessly. It means you recognize her behavior for what it is, without letting it shake you. You learn to read between the lines, to understand that her lack of initiation is part of a deeper, unconscious dance of attraction. When you adopt this perspective, you begin to see the beauty of the psychology at play. You see that the dynamics of human connection are not about domination or manipulation, but about subtle signals, mutual curiosity, and the interplay of independence and interest. Let's take a step further. A woman not calling first often reflects her need to feel desired, but in a very specific way. She wants to see that you're living fully, that your time is valuable, and that you're not dependent on her attention to validate your existence. This is not arrogance, it's self-respect. By understanding this, you step out of the trap of anxiety and into a space where attraction flows naturally. You stop overthinking her silence and start using it as a mirror to reflect on your own growth and presence. When you integrate this understanding, you stop chasing, you stop fearing silence. Instead, you embrace it as a space for reflection, for energy cultivation, and for demonstrating your value without saying a word. Women respond to presence more than persistence. Your calm, confident, and grounded energy communicates much louder than texts ever could. Silence becomes a tool, not a threat. You begin to see that attraction is less about who calls first and more about who embodies their worth consistently in all aspects of life. In essence, the first key to navigating this behavior is perspective. Shift your focus from trying to elicit a response to understanding why she behaves the way she does. Recognize the psychological and philosophical layers underlying female communication. See her silence as a challenge, not a rejection. A challenge to your self-awareness, patience, and confidence. This insight allows you to operate from a higher level of consciousness in relationships, where your actions are guided by understanding, not insecurity. And here's the takeaway I want you to hold on to. The moment you stop reacting to her silence out of fear and start responding out of awareness, you unlock a new level of attraction. You become the kind of man who doesn't need constant validation, who carries himself with integrity, and who naturally draws interest through presence and energy alone. That is the foundation for every meaningful connection you will ever have. Remember this: her silence is not a wall, it's a mirror. It reflects your own energy, your own confidence, and your capacity to hold space. Respect that mirror. Learn from it and let it guide you toward the kind of magnetic presence that doesn't chase but naturally attracts. Because when you master this understanding, you don't just change the way she responds, you change the way you value yourself. And that, my friend, is the most powerful shift you can make. Now that we've explored why women don't always call or text first, the next step is understanding the power of your own value. Too many men fall into the trap of thinking that the effort, the texts, the calls, the chasing, they define their worth in her eyes. But the truth is far deeper and far more empowering. Your value doesn't come from her reaching out, from her approval, or from her attention. Your value comes from your energy, your focus, your passions, and the life you are building outside of her. When you realize this, everything shifts. Suddenly, silence isn't threatening, it's liberating. It becomes a canvas on which you can project your own strength, presence, and self-respect. Imagine this: a man who waits, who chases, who anxiously texts just to hear a response. That man is defined by her behavior, by her attention. But a man who lives fully, who pursues his dreams, who cultivates friendships, hobbies, and experiences, he doesn't need constant validation. He carries himself with a sense of inner authority, and that is magnetic. Women feel it. They may not even consciously recognize it, but energy is language. Confidence, self-respect, and focus are louder than words. They speak volumes about who you are, about what you offer, and about why you're someone worth noticing. This principle extends far beyond romantic interactions. It touches on a fundamental truth about human psychology. People are drawn to those who have their own lives, their own identities, and their own purpose. When you obsess over someone's response or over trying to get her to call first, you're surrendering your identity to someone else. You're giving your power away. But when you prioritize your own life, your own growth, your own joy, you become someone who commands respect naturally. Attraction is a byproduct of presence, not a product of persistence. And let's be clear, maintaining your standards isn't arrogance. It isn't about being cold, distant, or manipulative. It's about clarity and integrity. It's about understanding that your energy is valuable and that you do not need to prove yourself to anyone. This is the cornerstone of self-respect, and it's exactly what women sense instinctively. When a man demonstrates this through his actions, through the way he spends his time, the way he engages with the world, the way he interacts with her, he signals that he is a man of value, and value is one of the most potent forms of attraction. Philosophically, this idea aligns with timeless principles of human connection. Think about the way people are drawn to those who have mastered themselves. Think of leaders, visionaries, and creators. Their influence isn't in the way they chase others. It's in the way they embody their mission and energy. Relationships work in the same way. When you cultivate yourself, when you are fully engaged with your own growth and purpose, the dynamic changes. She notices, her energy shifts, and her interest deepens, not because you forced it, but because you are naturally aligned with your own worth. There's also a subtle but profound psychological principle at play here: scarcity versus abundance. Men often operate from scarcity. They believe that if she doesn't text first, they risk losing her. But abundance operates differently. Abundance understands that life is full of opportunities, relationships, and experiences. It doesn't panic over silence. It doesn't seek constant reassurance. When you embody abundance, you communicate stability, confidence, and independence. That kind of presence is magnetic. It draws interest without effort, and it allows her to initiate because she senses your grounded energy. But maintaining your standards goes beyond just mindset. It's about consistent action. You don't just think differently. You live differently. You schedule your time around what fulfills you. You pursue your passions with intensity. You invest in your health, your skills, your friendships, and your growth. Every choice you make that reinforces your value strengthens the invisible pull of attraction. She may not call first, but that becomes irrelevant, because the connection exists on a level far beyond texts. It exists in energy, presence, and mutual curiosity. This approach also teaches patience and self-awareness. When you stop reacting impulsively to her silence, you gain clarity. You see patterns, understand intentions, and observe behaviors without being trapped by emotion. You no longer interpret everything as a reflection of your worth. Instead, you approach interactions with calm curiosity and strategic awareness. This shift from reaction to observation is powerful. It allows you to act from choice, rather than from fear or insecurity. And here's the key: your value is something you live, not something you ask for. It's embedded in the way you move through the world, the way you carry yourself, and the life you lead. When you consistently demonstrate this, the need for her to initiate diminishes. She feels drawn to you naturally, inspired by your presence, and motivated to engage. This isn't magic. It's the result of psychological and philosophical truths about human behavior and attraction. So, remember this: the man who is grounded, focused, and self-respecting doesn't chase. He attracts. He creates a life worth noticing, a presence worth responding to, and a connection worth investing in. His power lies not in texts, calls, or external validation, but in the integrity of his own being. Your life, your energy, your focus. These are your most valuable assets. Protect them, cultivate them, and let them speak louder than any message ever could, because when you do, you step into a new realm of attraction, influence, and connection. And in that space, she doesn't just want to reach out, she feels inspired to. Now that we've explored why she doesn't always reach out first, and how your own value creates natural attraction, the final step is learning how to respond strategically when she does make the move. This is where understanding female psychology becomes less about theory and more about practice. Many men make the mistake of reacting emotionally the moment a woman texts or calls. They overcompensate, over-explain or inject too much energy as if they need to prove their worth in that exact moment. But attraction isn't built on urgency or desperation. It's built on calm, confident, and intentional engagement. Think about it. When she finally reaches out, she's giving you a glimpse into her interest, and you want to meet that with energy that reflects your own value, not your anxiety. Women are subconsciously attuned to how a man handles attention. Do you chase? Do you panic, or do you respond with a measured, confident presence that communicates without words that your life is already rich and fulfilling? The way you answer her first message sets the tone for every interaction that follows. Your response can either elevate attraction or diminish it in seconds. The first principle here is emotional calibration. You want to approach her message with curiosity, with intrigue, and with a playful energy that invites connection. This doesn't mean manipulation. It means understanding the subtle psychological dance that occurs between two people. When a woman reaches out, she's testing the waters. She wants to see if your energy complements hers, if your presence stimulates interest, and if you can maintain a balance of engagement without losing yourself. Your calm, confident response tells her that you're a man who knows his worth, a man who can interact with intention rather than impulse. Humor is another tool that's incredibly effective in this context. Playful, light teasing communicates comfort, confidence, and social intelligence. It shows her that you're present in the interaction, but not dependent on it. Humor signals that your attention is valuable and that you can navigate emotional and social dynamics with ease. A well-placed joke or a witty remark can shift the energy of a conversation from mundane to magnetic, creating curiosity and desire. Women respond strongly to this because it demonstrates not only intelligence but emotional sophistication. A man who can engage without clinging, who can lead without forcing, and who can intrigue without manipulation. Another key element is timing. When she reaches out, don't feel compelled to respond immediately every single time. Strategic timing is not about playing games. It's about maintaining your sense of self and demonstrating that your life continues in her absence. Responding with calm deliberation communicates that you are a man with priorities, a man whose attention is selective, and a man whose energy is not available at anyone's disposal. This subtle shift in behavior, when executed with authenticity, dramatically increases attraction. Women notice the difference between urgency and presence, between neediness and confidence. It's also important to balance accessibility with mystery. While you want to engage meaningfully, you also want to preserve a sense of intrigue. Don't over-explain your life or emotions in the first exchange after her message. Instead, respond in ways that invite dialogue, spark curiosity, and subtly encourage her to reveal more about herself. Attraction thrives in a space where energy, mystery, and interest are balanced. When you master this, you become someone who is not only responsive, but also irresistible, because you communicate that your attention is earned, appreciated, and meaningful. Emotional intelligence plays a critical role here as well. When she reaches out, pay attention to tone, context, and underlying emotion. A woman's message often carries cues about her mood, interest, and level of investment. By noticing and responding to these cues with awareness and empathy, you elevate the interaction from a simple exchange of words to a deeper psychological connection. This is where philosophy meets psychology. Connection is not just what is said. It's the energy, the attention, and the intentionality behind each word. The man who understands this operates on a level beyond simple communication. He operates on influence, attraction, and presence. One of the most powerful aspects of responding strategically is that it transforms the dynamic entirely. Instead of reacting to her behavior, you influence it. You guide the interaction toward curiosity, playfulness, and emotional engagement, all while maintaining your integrity and self-respect. This is the moment where theory becomes reality. The knowledge you've gained about female psychology, your own value, and the energy of attraction coalesces into action. You are no longer a passive participant waiting for attention. You are an active creator of connection. And here's the ultimate truth. When you master how to respond, silence itself becomes a tool rather than a threat. Her decision to reach out is now an opportunity for you to demonstrate present confidence and emotional sophistication. Each response is intentional, each interaction builds intrigue, and each exchange reinforces your value in a way that is natural, authentic, and irresistible. This is not about manipulation. It's about alignment with fundamental principles of human attraction. So remember this, when she reaches out, you have a choice. You can react from insecurity, neediness, or fear, or you can respond from awareness, confidence, and strategic presence. The latter is transformative. It elevates your interactions, deepens attraction, and ultimately shifts the dynamic from uncertainty to connection. Your energy communicates more than your words ever could, and when wielded intentionally, it makes her want to engage with you again and again. In the end, the power lies not in who initiates, but in how you respond. The man who understands this is the man who attracts naturally, commands respect effortlessly, and inspires genuine curiosity. Every message she sends becomes an opportunity, not a test to pass, but a stage on which to display your energy, confidence, and presence. And when you master this, every connection becomes richer, deeper, and more meaningful. Remember this: responding with calm, confident, and strategic energy is not just a tactic. It's a reflection of your self-worth. It's how you demonstrate that your life, your energy, and your attention are valuable. And in that space, attraction flows naturally, curiosity is sparked effortlessly, and connection becomes inevitable.